welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Aries, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of January 2023. Happy New Year to you. I hope you're well. I'm using the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot for you today. If the reading resonates with you and you'd like to go a little bit deeper, the first link in the description box is to the extended that you can access at the end. The second link is to the 6-month overviews that I've done for each of the signs. They run from January to June, obviously, 2023. And the third link is to my private community, the Order of the Phoenix, over on Circle. So if you're interested in any of those, you know where to look. So let's get on with this and see what's going on with you. Can I have 3 cards for Aries, please? Oh, there's the first one. We have the 8 of Wands in reverse. For your recent past, current energy is the 6 of Wands there. Very nice. And what's coming towards Aries, please, for January? We have Temperance, right? This is a really nice set of cards. Although we do have the 7 of Wands at the bottom of the deck. And it's, I think, given what we were talking about last month, it's not really a surprise that we see that there. We've got the King of Wands sitting underneath it. And where we're not talking about action for action's sake, I mean, that the 7 of Wands talks about the energy of defensiveness sometimes. I'm going to use the wild unknown to clarify. I mean, it can talk about protection and it can talk about guardedness and you know, all those sorts of things. There's a nuanced difference between being protective and being defensive, and I think that's something that's starting to work its way through into your consciousness as something that needs to be explored, the subtle difference between the two. But the King of Wands is that actions for action's sake, defensiveness for defensiveness' sake. And there's a, you know, it's all fire here for you. Oh, I should just flip this around so you can see it. Should have checked the camera was straight first, right? Oh, an absolute shit show. Right. It's all fire here. Again, we've got 8 of Wands, that's Sagittarius energy. We've got the 6 of Wands, that's Leo. And we've got Temperance here with Sagittarius again. So let's get some clarifiers. Actually, we'll just give these a good shuffle. And see what's going on with this 8 of Wands in reverse. We have the Hierophant and the 5 of Pentacles. Tell me about the 6 of Wands, please. 3 of Swords. Ooh, and the Chariot. And tell me about Temperance, please. We've got the Emperor coming out sideways. Interesting. That's a really interesting I can't even think of the word that I'm looking for here, but I like that. I actually like that is that way. Oh, we've got 2 cards coming out with it. 6 of Pentacles and the 7 of Pentacles with the World card at the bottom of the deck. Right. Now, for those of you who watched last month, we went into some depth. I think between the YouTube and the Vimeo readings, it ran to 2.5 hours, I think, something like, and that happens sometimes, you know, when signs are really getting to a place where they're getting ready to break through, right? Break out of a mold, break out of a particular mindset, or these sorts of things. Like sometimes, you know, the cards come in and they're like, you don't get to leave until we've thoroughly explored all of that. And that's what that felt like that last month. This month sees all sorts of things, it would seem, starting to kind of slot into place. Now, when I did the meditation before I started, I've got a whole thing to tell you actually about before I started the reading, particularly when I come into this space here, because this is my workspace and it's, you know, I energetically prep it every time I come in here, and I'm in here most days. So over the course of the 9 months that I've been here, 9 months, 10 months, 9 months, something like that, right? We've got a conscious little bubble going on. So from the second that I come in here and I sit down, I pay attention to what is going on, right? And that's whether animals are appearing, you know, what state my cards are in, and all of these things, they form part of the reading for me. It's not just about the cards and what comes out. So I sat down and I had these decks all out, but what I realised was, let me just flip this around here for a second so I can talk to you properly, was that what I'd actually done in the last reading that I'd done, I just gathered up all of the cards in a stack and I just put them down. And so I needed to sort them all out, right? So I picked up the stack and I started filtering them all into their own different piles. And I looked at the Pagan Otherworlds Tarot and I was like, that's the deck that's being used. And I like to check for the feel of it before but it was like, no, it's going to be that one. And I thought, that's interesting. Point number one. And so I finished sorting out all of the cards, and then I looked at the Pagan Otherworlds deck, and it had something stuck on it, and it looked like, I don't know, it actually looked like it was a bit of tobacco or something like that, right? So I very gingerly picked the deck up like that to look at it, and it was a spider. It was a very slow-moving, very deliberate moving, actually, kind of freaky spider. And I heard, you know, long dark night of the soul. Now, I'm not sure that you haven't been going through this already, Aries. Whether or not you've recognised it for what it is, I think it's certainly an energy that you've been in for a little while. And I am pleased to report that I think that you're coming towards the end. Well, I know that you're coming towards the end of it, right? But this spider, it kind of gave me the heebie-jeebies. I'm actually kind of a fan of spiders. I think they're hypnotic and wonderful, and also terrible and frightening and all that sort of thing. I like them from a distance, right? So, having picked up this deck of cards, I went to just go and sort of tap it out there, and it just jumped off and onto my table, and I was like, oh my god. And it just walked very carefully along the edge of the table. And then I picked up my singing bowl, and I scooped it up into there, and then I chucked it outside. But what was interesting to me was the very slow, deliberate movements of the spider. This wasn't one that was running around, right? There's also the symbolism of what the spider actually speaks about, right? So what we've got there is careful, considered work, right? When a spider's building a web, it doesn't take any shortcuts, right? It does what it has to do, and it takes the time to do it because it's important. Its very life depends on whether it can spin a decent web or not, right? But then there were the slow, deliberate movements of it, and it was unpleasant to look at, but I was hypnotized. I was fixated by it until I picked it up and chucked it out the window, right? The symbolism of all of that spider being on that deck of cards, and then the cards that we've got down here, you're coming to the end of this, but you can't rush anything. You know, we're in Mars retrograde at the moment, and I haven't really spoken about that. I don't even know if I mentioned it in the last video, but like, you know, what you're experiencing now is classic Mars retrograde energy, right? It's not about moving forwards. You in fact can't move forwards. You have to either stand still or preferably go backwards and see what is going on with you, right? How the kind of situation that you're in at the moment is representing something that you've either grown out of or something that is constricting you, right? There is something that's being asked of you to really push through here and come out with a different level of insight and understanding of yourself than you did when you went into Mars retrograde. Now, January, actually that really fits as well, because I'm sure it's around about the 18th of January that Mars stations direct again. So we have that sense of you going from stasis and everything being very dark and everything being, well, very still. I mean, I'll just flip this around here again. Look at these cards that we have going on here. All right, we've got the Eight of Wands in reverse, so no momentum, no forward movement. Then we have the Hierophant, which is the card of Taurus, which is probably the slowest, well, it's the slowest moving card in the major arcana. It is fixed earth. It's something that makes you feel very fucking stuck indeed. Taurus, it's a Taurus card. Very stuck indeed, Aries. You know, we've got this Five of Pentacles, right? More pentacle energy, but it's talking about your needs. Now, before I get into the cards properly, we'll just go back to the symbolism of the spider. You know, on top of everything else that I mentioned there, the symbolism of the spider is femininity, right? It's pure feminine energy, this spider. Think about, the role of male spiders in the female spiders world. It's a mate and it's lunch, possibly. It doesn't really have much more to do than that. So as a symbol of femininity, like the feminine being in charge here, and how that runs up against your overt masculinity. Like, regardless of whether you're male or female, I think it's something that we can all agree is that fire signs, regardless of their gender, are pretty masculine presenting, right? And I'm talking about the energy. I'm not talking about what your face looks like, right? It's that energy. It is that getting up and doing things and active, right? Active is masculine, passive is feminine. So where you have been stopped in your tracks and where you cannot progress any further, where your usual Aries way of dealing with things is proving to be completely insufficient for you, and you've got things like, we're now in Mercury retrograde, Mars is also in retrograde, we've got you looking at what you can do. And the only thing that you can do is really lean into your feminine side a little bit. We're talking about how you work out how you feel about things. And the question is, have you really, really, really thought about that? Have you really felt your way around your own feelings? Because, I don't know, this here, and certainly I feel like what we were talking about last month, although forgive me, the exact details of what we spoke about are now gone. They elude me. It seemed to be stripping down what was action for action's sake. What is the, this active energy of going up against the world like this all the time and saying, why do you do that, Aries? Why does everything have to be a fight? Why do you feel like you need to fight for everything that you have? That's what we were talking about last month, and we're seeing it here. What is it that you're not getting that you need? Where is the feminine not having an opportunity to really express itself in your energy dynamic at the moment, right? That's where you've been, I think. But here is where you are now. We've got the Six of Wands, and that is a card of victory. It's a card of success. It's, interestingly, a card of conspicuous public success. I think that's where the Leo has something to do with it, that Leo energy there. And rather than saying, well, everything was really shit and now it looks like it's really good, there's something much more discreet going on here. In so much as I think that this has you reevaluating exactly what it means to be successful. What are the metrics of success that you are using to judge yourself with at this point? And are they outmoded? Are they outdated? And are they shielding? And I use that word specifically. Are they shielding some sort of deeper hurt that you haven't wanted to look at up until this point? I'll pull these cards up here. These a little shuffle. Tell me about this Three of Swords, please. Oh, okay. We've got the Sun. It's more Leo energy, obviously. And we also have the World. Now, there's a couple of different ways of looking at this, and that's really quite interesting. The first is, if you are dealing with a Leo, and you might be dealing with a Leo, then it could be that there's some sort of some sort of rejection, some sort of a loss of a relationship, and that doesn't have to be an intimate relationship. We can be talking about friends, we can be talking about wider family members, right? It could be something like that that's really playing on your mind at the moment and is actually really, really hurting you. And in that feeling of hurt, what you've done before now is lash out, right? You just attacked, right? Maybe defended in your head, no, whatever it is. But the other way of looking at this is because of this specific Leo stuff that we've got going on here, you know, and particularly the sun rather than strength. There's always a nod to childhood whenever Leo appears in a reading somewhere. You know? And specifically the experience of childhood that allows you to be naked and vulnerable and yet safe and protected and joyful. And this world card, you know, although a card that is very, very good in all senses, actually, because it indicates a sense of completion and then graduation and all this kind of thing, right? What you've actually got going on here is an end, right? A painful end to childhood that you possibly didn't even understand, that has now, in your adult years, both tempered and shaped what you feel you need to be successful. Now this, in the pagan otherworlds, it's really interesting. None of the pips cards actually have characters on them at all, right? You only have the element that it represents. And I think even that is an interesting point, because there's an absence of people there. And part of, I think, in my humble opinion, part of what it is to be Aries is to not only feel strong in yourself, right? That's what Aries wants. Aries wants to feel strong in themselves. They want to feel determined. They want to feel that that excitement of pointing in a new direction and going off like a fucking rocket, right? That's what Aries lives for. But there's also a corresponding desire for other people to perceive you as such too. Now that isn't an ego position for you, strictly Aries, at all. It's not like I want everybody to see how big and brave I am. It's more like, when you really dig into it, I need everybody to see how big and independent and bold I am, because then they won't do things that fuck me over. You know? Then they won't do things that trigger the wounds from childhood that I have, that have stopped me being able to exist like this free state of vulnerability, where you can just allow the sun to kind of shine on your skin and it's fine. You're not worried about snakes jumping out of the grass, or, you know, fucking murderers coming out of the sunflowers to, you know, fuck you over or whatever. So part of your success is about being seen to be all of the things that you want to be. And I think that there's something really strong in Aries about actually wanting to protect and be in charge and be in the lead and make sure that everybody is looked after. But it's like it's changing. Your understanding of what that is changing. It's becoming something much more subtle. And the view of yourself, like the identity aspect of you here, feels like it's had a bit of a kicking at the same time. And that can be really hard. I mean, that's dark night of the soul stuff all day long. Like, here we go. We've got the Ten of Cups here. And we've got the Chariot coming out sideways. You know, the King of Swords is at the bottom of the deck, and it's like this intellectual position that you've taken. The independence is important, right? And maybe, like I'm sure we must have talked about last time, this idea of being, you know, almost independent to a fault, so that you don't understand how to be in a functioning collective, whether that is you in a partnership with someone else, business partnership, romantic partnership, sexual partnership, whatever, or in a wider community than that, wider friends and family, whatever it is for you. Like, you take your fire really seriously, and you should. because it's a gift and it's very powerful, and if it's misused, then that would be terrible for everyone. But I think that there's an understanding that somewhere along the way, without intending it to be the case, you have misused it. And it's because of the pain that you didn't acknowledge. And further, this sudden realization of an inability to be able to function within a collective in the way that you thought you could. It's almost like you've not had a really solid functioning example to learn from. And so you've been doing the best that you could. But without realizing it, it's been kind of clumsy. And it's almost at the point now where there's this almost fear of moving forwards. Even though what you want and what you need is right here. And I feel certain this is a thing that happens to you every Mars retrograde anyway, right? You kind of get used to being still for so long, then the thought of moving forward becomes intimidating. It becomes overwhelming because of all of the insights that you kind of managed to churn up whilst Mars was not letting you move forwards. You know, once you get over the grumble of it and you start to feel into what is being shown to you here, and I feel like you kind of getting a double dose of it with Mercury being retrograde as well, during certainly the first couple of weeks of January. That when that energy starts to lift a little bit, you'll be moving slow. You'll be moving really slow. As you should, I feel. You know, it's as you should. Not because there's anything wrong with the speed that you move at usually, but because there is so much that is really, really important for you to understand about where you are right now and who you are right now, and more importantly, who you can be. You know, Jupiter's just gone into Aries, and I was listening to a video by Adam Ellenbass last night, and he was saying that he'd made this video because everybody kept asking him, you know, like, Jupiter's gone into Aries, why is everybody not like up, you know? Why is everything not on fire already? And he was saying that actually Jupiter's been jumping. Well, it was in Aries earlier this year. I mean, it's like the 30th of December as I'm recording this. So if you're watching it in January, it's last year, right? And it went up to, I think it went up to like 8 degrees of Aries before coming back out again, right? Retrograding out, I assume. So although Jupiter is in Aries now, and when I looked at it last night, it was at like 0.23 degrees of Aries, something like that. Actually, these first 8 degrees are going to be retreading ground that we trod last year when Jupiter was in Aries before. And it's not until it hits 9 degrees of Aries that energy is going to start lifting up, and we're going to start experiencing the new in the proper sense of the new that we understand Aries to mean, right? And there comes the expansion. I mean, if nothing else, what this reading's really saying to me is that patience and consistency, and certainly no small amount of humility, but a diligence about what it is that you're working on in yourself at this point is important. And once we hit that 9th degree, once Jupiter hits that 9th degree, things are going to start feeling a little bit more like you are used to there. But we also have Mars stationing direct, ready to start moving forwards again. And we'll also have Mercury stationing direct, ready to move forwards again. Just be patient. And I know it's asking a lot because fucking Mars has been in retrograde for fucking, feels like years. It literally feels like years already. But you're absolutely on the right path because of the things that you are looking at. You know, this Chariot card underneath here It's talking about the kind of balance that comes from addressing what you did not want to look at. Right? And I don't think it's your conscious mind didn't want to look at it, it's your subconscious mind. Right? What I'm not doing is relieving you of any responsibility for any kind of behaviour that you might have indulged in at any point in the past. But what I am saying is there's a reason for it. You know, you as a responsible adult have to go and look at this now and say, well, where's the wounding? Where's the childhood stuff? Why is it that this feels so difficult to me? And why is functioning in groups so difficult for me? What do I have to learn about this? Because as you do, it's going to fundamentally change both your balance and the way that you can, the way that you can move forwards. And the Chariot does talk about success in movement too, right? But it also, for me, suggests that you can see how you've been in your own way. And that's more valuable than anything else in the world. So, when we move into January, we've got this Temperance card here, right? There we have themes of balance reappearing again, and we have Sagittarius. So we've got the alchemy of this card. We're talking about healing, right? Turning things from pain into something that can be released and let go, right? Something that creates a space inside of you instead. We've got the sun rising just over here, and I feel like that is... It actually feels so on point. The sun is starting to rise after that long dark night of the soul. I mean, we see that very message on the Ten of Swords, actually. Somebody's there at rock bottom, but their face is turned towards the rising sun, and it is like the sky is starting to colour up, ready for the day to begin again. So things have been very, very dark, but here comes the sun, Because temperance is all about healing. It's about everything in moderation. It's about pulling the extremes back from where they are and finding that place in the centre. I mean, the Chariot card talks about the same thing there. It talks about finding that balancing point between true polarities. Like this Emperor card coming up in the sideways, as it has done here, I actually really, really like that. Very, very much, because this here could well be an indication that controlling behaviours that you might have indulged in that you were completely unaware you were doing are now starting to subside. We absolutely associate the Emperor with control, but if the Emperor is a dictator, then that's a kind of negative control there, right? What we want is that benevolent Emperor energy, whereby he's trying to do the best thing for everybody concerned by managing certain bits and pieces. And he's not doing it all himself. I think it's one of the things that gets missed about the Emperor is that he is, by nature, a deft and adept delegator. And in order to delegate, you have to be sure that all the people that you're delegating to are going to be doing their jobs. There has to be a system put in place there. That's the kind of control we like. That's the kind of structure that is good, where everybody knows what they're doing and everybody gets on with it without undue interference from above or below or whatever, right? It's that what's the word that I'm looking for? It's like it's an ecosystem that works for itself, right? Now, if you extrapolate that off to family or friends or anything like that, is it a functioning ecosystem where everybody's doing their own thing? Right? Think about what I talk about when we talk about the 9 and the 10 of Cups and the difference between the two, right? The 9 of Cups is you, the responsibility that you take for your emotional well-being, what makes you happy, your own your interaction with your emotions, with your cups, your understanding of it, all of those things. When you get to the 10, that is about the collective. That is about everybody, hopefully, showing up in exactly that space, because then you can create more than the sum of your parts. When everybody's coming together with that Nine of Cups, when nobody feels like they are required, beholden to somebody else to make them happy, right? No codependence, anything like that. When we have actually got people who are comfortable enough, interdependent enough to be able to ask for help when they need it, and understand that that means that they're not giving up on whatever it is that they're doing, right? They're just involving people in. Is that how your family has been working? Is that how your community has been working? Or has it got a bit fraught and a bit fractured? Because you're in the process of turning this upright. Like I said, before all this planetary stuff stops rolling around, I don't think that you're going to be able to get it quite upright yet. But you're not supposed to be. Right? You're supposed to be finding the way that you can be a true emperor by paying attention to both the masculine and the feminine bits of you. You know, a leader who is purely masculine will be cold. They will be controlling. There will be somebody who is deaf to the needs of others, completely oblivious to it. Somebody who didn't have enough masculine energy would not be able to make difficult decisions. They would not be able to put themselves in a place where they could lead. The Emperor has to have both, and it's coming. And the self-awareness that seems to be being developed here in you is a really important part of that process of moving forward. Because we've got, look at this, we've got the 6 and the 7 of Pentacles to finish here. Now the 6 of Pentacles is about bringing things into balance. There is that fucking word again, right? It's a theme for you this month. But then we've got the 7 of Pentacles coming after it. And I actually love the fucking bones of that coupling of cards there. Not least because what will come next will be the 8 of Pentacles. There will be solid work that you can do, right? There's something that you can become a master of. But in the interim, what happens is you find your balance, and that is within yourself, but also, within your circumstances, right? So that you can look at where you are and look at what is actually wrong in your life and fix those things if that be necessary. Because it could well be that what's actually going on here is that your life is a damn sight fucking better than you thought it was. If you just relaxed about it a little bit, if you let this little ecosystem of, the people that are around you be as it is. The 7 of Pentacles is quite a present card of being, do I put more energy into something or do I withdraw it? And I could see there being situations all around you where it is going to be one or the other. Like obviously it's going to be one or the other. What a ridiculous thing to say. It could be investment in one thing and it will be divestment in something else. Kind of pull back from here and actually put a little bit more of myself into here, because possibly part of the investment that might be required from you is vulnerability. A true vulnerability from you, allowing people to see that there is fragility inside of you, that you are not this, armor-clad, personnel carrier, essentially, that's just kind of, completely oblivious to people and small animals kind of walking around it, impenetrable. There's definitely a sense of you starting to see beyond yourself by seeing yourself properly for the first time. It could be a very confrontational thing for an Aries to actually accept that they have got trauma somewhere. And I know this is a word that gets bandied around a lot, and that as seems to happen with the younger generation, when they get a hold of something, it becomes bandied around like like some sort of badge of honour. I remember it from my own teens as well, but it seems to have reached whole new levels in the 2020s. But to understand that those early experiences have moulded you in such a way that there are things that you have not seen, that you have not seen about yourself, that you have not seen about other people, and also about the interplay between those two things, between you and the other people, between you and communities. The good news is, and it is fucking good news, Aries, that everything seems to be unraveling in exactly the way that it was supposed to. And so if the spider of whatever part of your insides you're kind of currently engaged with gives you the heebie-jeebies, you look at it and go, well, I respect this, but a spider's a survivor, right? But it doesn't mean that it doesn't give you the willies just looking at them, because they're creepy and they're non-mammalian and they're, potentially dangerous. Then lean into that. So why is there a little bit of your insides that holds so much power and yet is so terrifying to you? Like, this needs to be brought into balance. You need to make friends with this part of yourself, because from there you're going to start making much, much better decisions moving forwards. Because I think probably part of what's certainly on the face of it appeared to start this domino run has been decisions that you've made that seem to have backfired, that just didn't turn out the way that you were expecting. And I think that this is why. It's coming out of this. Not only are you healed, not only are you, well, certainly partially healed. I don't think we ever truly manage to get completely healed because the work is never done. But the decisions that you make moving forwards are much more sound, much more well thought out. And that's important, because there's so much going on in the first 6 months of 2023. Like, I don't think I really spoke about it that much in the overviews, but what I did get a real sense of is that there was almost frenetic activity, certainly from March onwards, March to June, which then settles down, or becomes restricted down, shall we say, in the second part of the year. So it's almost like all the chess pieces are moving to exactly where they need to be, all the people are moving to where they need to be for whatever happens next moving forwards. And so that is going to take some good judgments from you moving forwards. So don't lose heart. Don't be disillusioned. Everything is happening for your highest good. Meditate on the spider. Really do. Meditate on the spider. I think that's a really good use of your time. So I'm going to go over to Vimeo now. If you would like to join me over there, we'll dissect January a little bit and see what we can come up with. You're more than welcome. If not, like I said, don't fret. It's coming to completion soon. One foot in front of the other and all of that. So know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.